Hey guys, what is up? Destiny Gold back for another review. Today we are looking at the Crota's and Pulse rifle called Oversoul Edict. Wow, that is a badass name. Let's dive right into the stats before we get into the fun stuff though. The rate of fire is 77. That's really solid. The rate of fire is going to help you spew bullets with this thing, especially with the full auto perk that we'll get to in a minute. The impact is only 4 though, so you're not going to be doing too much damage with every one of those shots. At least it has the high rate of fire to help maximize that though. The range is 33, so that's alright. It's not great, but we'll get to more of that in a minute. The stability is 54, so it's already pretty stable. You're going to be landing most of your shots as long as your aim doesn't completely suck. The reload is 61, so that's pretty solid. It's not great, but it's not absolutely horrible either. So, now looking at the perks. You have basically a lot of close range scopes. They don't really give you anything for long range. You have a red dot OES. I never really use that. You have a red dot OAS, which I use occasionally, but not really for anything in particular. And then there's the red dot ORES. Now, I like this one a lot. It's basically a perfectly flat scope that has a little dot in the center, and I think it's very easy to use. So that's the one I typically stick with for both PvP and PvE. My setup for those actually aren't too different with this weapon in particular anyway. So moving on, you have full auto. Now, that makes the rate of fire of 77 and the impact of 4 a lot easier to manage. Imagine it more of like an auto rifle that has those kind of stats. Obviously you have a tiny pause in between every 3 shots that you fire, but I don't actually notice as much with this weapon, and I treat it more like an auto rifle than a pulse rifle in the first place. If you've used the Stranger's rifle, it's pretty much tangible to that. It's very similar to that weapon, except it has arc damage instead of being kinetic, I believe. So anyway, I like this weapon a lot, and it performs really well with the full auto. Then you have an upgrade for damage. That's totally special. Then you have 3 perks that you get to choose from. You have Snapshot. Aiming this weapon is incredibly fast. It already does that pretty well, so I don't really see why that's even a necessary perk. It's kind of pointless. Then you have Field Scout. I like using this for PvP because the base magazine of 30 with the lower impact doesn't really trade off so well in PvP, so I usually use the Field Scout, so I'm guaranteed those extra shots. Even if I miss a few shots, a magazine of 30 may not be enough to kill a Guardian, especially at longer ranges. Even though the recoil is low and you may be able to land all those shots, you simply won't be doing the damage, especially if they're trying to avoid the shots at the same time, and you're probably missing a few more than you're trying to land. So, I typically stick with fitted stock, however, for PvE. I don't really find that you need too many shots at once for PvE, and the reload is already pretty solid, so I never really had an issue running out of ammo. Field Scout's alright, but you have plenty of ammo in reserve with this weapon, so I found that fitted stock actually works pretty well. Increased weapon stability, so you basically can hit all of your shots, even at range, and I find that to be very, very useful. After that, you have Dark Breaker. Projectiles will overpenetrate through Hive Knight's Wall of Darkness. Wow, have I ever heard of a situational perk? This is it. It's really nice if you're fighting a lot of Hive Knights, so if you're doing the strike with Fogoth, you're going to find this to be a little bit useful midway through, but I can't find this to be useful too many other places. Obviously, against things that aren't Hive, this is a wasted perk, so I don't think it's actually that useful. It's kind of pointless. Moving on, you have your 4 damage upgrades, and you have the Hive Disruptor. Increased damage to Hive Majors. This basically just makes it useful in the raid and strikes involving Hive, but otherwise it's kind of useless again, so I don't really know how to describe that. Overall, in PvE, I have to give this weapon a higher rating than PvP. PvP, this weapon gets dominated pretty quickly just because of the low impact. Even if the rate of fire is high and the stability is pretty good, even if all the other stats are good, the impact is just too low to actually make it really count. A lot of weapons that have higher rates of fire, including auto rifles, that have high rates of fire and low damage just do not perform up to par with a lot of other weapons. So I have to give this weapon like a 4 for PvP because it's not very solid. PvE, I'm going to rate it a bit higher though. I'm going to give this thing a 6.5 out of 10. It's pretty situational with its perks. It's a very solid rifle, but it's not the best. You could do a lot better. I like Coiled Hiss, even though it's kinetic damage. I like it for the higher rate of fire and lower impact weapons because you can get different perks on it that make it more useful. You don't have the useless Dark Breaker, and you don't have useless things like Snapshot. You could get a different perk on it, like missing a shot will give you an extra 1 to fire, like it'll fire a 4th shot. You could get a whole bunch of other perks that are more useful. So I don't really think it's actually that great for PvE either. And if you're looking for an arc damage weapon, Fatebringer will absolutely crap all over this thing. So in my opinion, this weapon isn't that great. There are better weapons you can get from the raid, but it is a lot of fun to use. So, I mean, I wouldn't just throw it away. It is a fun weapon to play with. Might as well give it a shot. Thank you guys for watching. Please rate, comment, subscribe. If you have your own comments on this weapon, definitely drop those down below. We read most of them, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and we'll see you in the next video.